All right, today we're going to break down a viral video from the YouTube channel Liberal Hive Mind. It makes some really serious claims about Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz. So let's just dive right into the argument they're making.
Right off the bat, the video kicks things off with this bombshell of a statement. It immediately sets this high-stakes, almost prosecutorial tone for the entire case it's about to build against the governor.
So, what's the actual accusation here? Well, the channel's entire case really comes down to alleging a political quid pro quo. You've probably heard that term before. It's Latin for something for something. It's this idea that an official might trade a political favor for some kind of support.
Now, according to the source, this isn't just about some poor mismanagement. No, the video is putting forward a much more serious theory, that this was a deliberate deal, a kind of exchange of political support for access to state funds.
Okay, when you make a claim that big, you have to back it up, right? Well, the source builds its case on what it presents as two key pieces of evidence. A video clip it calls the smoking gun, and then a direct confrontation with the governor. Let's dig into that first piece.
So first up is a piece of footage that the source describes as a complete bombshell. It's really presented as the most direct evidence for the channel's entire theory.
The whole argument really hinges on this one specific video clip. The narrator presents this as the key moment, what they call saying the quiet part out loud, where a direct connection is supposedly made between the governor and this new flow of money into the community. And this is the exact line from the subtitles that the source zooms in on. The YouTube channel highlights this as a crucial on-camera admission that, in their view, directly ties Governor Walz to the funding. So, using that quote as the foundation, the narrator lays out this whole chain of events. This slide basically shows you the channel's interpretation, a sequence that they say starts with political support, leads to an election win, and ends with, well, alleged fraud of taxpayer money with very little oversight. Okay, so that was the video clip. Now for the second piece of their evidence. The source shifts its focus to Governor Walz's own reaction when he was asked about these fraud allegations at a public event.
The video frames the governor's response as a really key part of its argument. It basically contrasts what the narrator thinks should have been said with what they claim was actually said, painting the governor's words as a total deflection.
And this slide lays out that critique perfectly. On the left, you see what the source says should have happened: address the fraud, announce audits, demand accountability. But on the right is how the source interprets the actual response, pivoting to accusations of demonization, and this is the key part, promising more funding, not more oversight. The video presents this specific quote as the critical moment in that whole exchange. The narrator argues that by framing the issue this way, the governor is using what the channel calls a mortal shield to completely sidestep the actual questions about the money. So the crucial point, according to the source, is this. By not talking about the fraud allegations directly, and instead focusing on the community, the governor avoided accountability. The narrator is basically saying that the core issue, the lack of financial oversight, was just never addressed. So, how does the video tie these two pieces of evidence together? What's the final verdict here? Let's break down how the source wraps this all up and what it calls for. So, just to bring it all back to that core idea, this is the concept at the very heart of the video's accusation, a quid pro quo. It's this theory that there was a direct exchange, political support for financial favor. And based on how it interprets the clip and the governor's response, the channel concludes by demanding some pretty specific actions. It's calling for a deep forensic investigation to figure out if, in its view, there was complicity and if a quid pro quo really did happen. And this is the final, very provocative question the video leaves you with. It frames the entire situation as one of two really damning possibilities. Either this was monumental incompetence that allowed for massive fraud, or it was a deliberate political deal. And that right there is the core argument being presented in this source material.